What is going on, guys and gals? Today we have a Penn International V50 wide that's having some problems with this preset knob. Push it in and turn it, nothing happens, forward or backwards. So let's find out why that is and how we can fix it. Now this is just a repair video, so if you want to see a full breakdown of one of these reels or something similar, wait until the end of this video for a link to it. I'll also link it in the description below. Now the obvious place to check would be in this area right here where the knob is. See if there's anything locked up or frozen there. But I'm going to check this side first to see something on the left side of the spool to see if anything's going on there. So I'm going to open that up by removing those 5 screws. Now what I'm looking for here is this actual cover for the drag. This is pretty loose. And somehow that retaining clip right there is not working. So let's pull this entire thing out and see what's going on. I do also notice in here that these are set up one way, not necessarily terrible, but not great either. And it seems like that spring in there is in the wrong spot. Oh, that is not good. So if you see that spring right there, that should be on the inside of this shaft versus below the clutch washers there. I don't know what's going on. Let me use my pliers and see if we can pull this out, but don't want to damage anything. Oh yeah, that's not good. That is not good. Now let's hope it didn't damage the bearing, but it looks like it did because that is seriously pressed in there is what it looks like. Let's set this aside first for a second, guys. I don't know who serviced this reel or what they thought they were doing, but it is not correct. And I had a clue from this because when I was cranking this reel, the clicker for the anti-reverse or for the dogs over here was really loud. And I can see why that is because these springs are bent up quite a bit, significantly so, which is not the way it's supposed to be. We can straighten those out a little bit so we can have a little lighter sound for the anti-reverse dog, but the main problem is this. Okay, so we're still gonna have to take this side off. Now, this being all in the same direction is not, I mean, I don't like it, but it's not necessarily terrible. You can do this to get more drag out of your reel, but you also have to notice that just having it all in one position or one direction will reduce the stack size and could possibly cause issues with the reel. So let me go ahead and jump on this side. I'm gonna pop this handle off, pop this cover off, pull that gear out, and then check this stuff here. It's always a little disconcerting when you open up a reel and it's just in the wrong position. Everything is. Because you don't always know what was done. Meaning there could be other things wrong with the reel. However, this reel is just a repair. So what we're doing here is repairing it. And it seems like the gist of our repair will be just resetting everything, but I also need to check that bearing because I'll show you when I pull it out what it looks like. All right, so let's go ahead and do the quick stuff first. We're just gonna go ahead and bend that down a little bit so it's a little flatter. That looks a little bit better. And we'll bend this one down also. And that looks better too. Now let's go ahead and get to the main problem. Just push this out. Now I'm gonna undo those 2 screws right there. Pull this up and let everything fall out of there. Pop this up. Drop. Let's just push it down. All right, I'm gonna leave that stuff in there for now. And we're gonna check this bearing here. Now the bearing seems like it might be fine. It is unlikely that this bearing is fine. So if you see, actually near impossible this bearing is fine. And I'll show you why. So if you see here, you see how flush that cover right there is to the inner race. There's some metal shavings. Now if you compare it to this side, you see the inner race right there, and you see that inner cover pushed in very, very far, and that's pinching against the bearing. The reason that's happening is because that had an uncanny knack of being almost the same size as the diameter for the inner race, so it just kind of went over it as you put more and more pressure on it, then it just popped into place, and then just kept on pushing and pushing and pushing against that inner race. I'm sorry, against that cover. So we're gonna replace this because we're not gonna take any chances with that one. And I suspect this is why these are all put back in the same direction, because there was so little room there when you're putting that shaft back on that you couldn't fit everything in and have the reel closed up properly. And they found a way around it by doing that, because the reel was closed up when we got it. So let's go ahead and undo this screw here. I'm gonna hold on to this. I'm gonna pull this out and I'm gonna show you where that spring should have gone. The spring should have been over here, like so, versus being over here on this side. So we might have to replace the spring. I'm gonna compare one of the other ones, but this is one of those things you can actually take a chance on in terms of putting it back in there, because there is some room to play with when you play with these drags. Now let's go ahead and open this up. And that should be catching inside there, and it's not. It's not the end of the world, but it's also not ideal. So let's pop this out and let's see what's happening here and why it's not catching. It could be that the spring is not there, which it seems like it is. That's what I think is happening, but let's just double check. Spring is there. The spring goes down, but it doesn't go down all the way. So I just think we need to clean that up a little bit and then it should be okay. But let's just check. Oh, I just heard a noise. Yeah, there it is. That little scraping sound is what I wanted to hear. That's this base piece right here scraping against that metal plate. Then at some point when we get low enough down there, it'll fit into one of those little slots that you saw, and then lock it. All right, so let's go ahead and get a new pinion bearing, put that stuff back in, and we'll test it out. So let's try this out and see if it turns. We're just gonna look at it, and there we go. It turns, and we are engaging the drag, as we can see right there.